Kia ora whānau, and welcome to another episode of Get a Job and Get Healthy with Costas Enterprises. And today, yes, I'm driving again, but as always, I am your host, Alex Costas. And yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Mental Health Week, given it is Mental Health Week, as well as growth and also just thinking about where I've come from in a year's time. So this time last year, I was in Australia for a friend's wedding. I did a podcast episode about that, and that is up on the YouTube as well now. So yeah, I thought I'd talk about where I've been in a year, what I've done, the importance of mental health and getting help and all that sort of stuff as well. But first, let's get into the socials. So first and foremost, you can find me on via email you can go to doncostas@gmail.com. That's DON for Nike, COSTAS @gmail.com. Alternatively, you can find me at the Kiwi Don on both Instagram and on Twitter. You can go to my website, www.costasenterprises.business.blog, and you can also find our candles at www.anyengarden.com. That's www.anyengarden.com, or at @anyengarden_candles on Instagram as well, where you can find more of our stuff. Right, so now that all the fun social stuff is, right now I am currently driving around Macra, or driving the road to Macra, should I say, from Johnsonville, which is a beautiful drive. If you do ever come to New Zealand, or if you ever come to Wellington and you haven't done this drive, it is a fantastic drive, especially when it's quiet. There's sheep, there's horses, there's all that sort of stuff. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because during this time, this drive, it's very quiet, it's very nice, it's very calm, and I've been doing a lot of reflecting the last couple of days. So as I said, a year ago, I was in Australia, first sort of real solo trip by myself in Australia, and I was at a friend's wedding. The couple are still married, obviously, and they've had a major milestone as well, so I'm so happy. It was still the wedding of the century, in my opinion. You cannot get better than that wedding. But the cool thing is, just how much I've grown. I was thinking about this earlier today. Before, I was not the best driver, and at that time, I had to drive on a Brisbane highway in Australia, which was a fun experience. And now, I can drive on the motorway, no qualms, no worries. I can do all that by myself. I don't have to, I can drive in the rain. I just recently drove to Auckland. And so I'm mentioning the driving thing because that's what got me thinking about all this stuff, was basically me just, reflecting on, 2 years ago, I hated the motorway. I wouldn't go near it. This year, I'm on the motorway sometimes 2 times, 3 times a week, because of the candles and all that sort of stuff, but also just sorting stuff out, going through mum's stuff and then donating it at the free store in Porirua, which is amazing. So yeah, that's where I've just come from, actually. So I just dropped some stuff off there, which was quite nice. And yeah, it's been a really, really cool, it's been a very transformative year for me. I at the start of the year in January, I sort of lost my mother, and in sort of April, I lost my job, and I had to come through the mental health sort of things myself, thinking about, what am I going to do with my life? I'm 40 years old. Do I have enough time to get a job? Yada, yada, yada. I had a lot of self-doubt, you see. And, it's been a eye-opening experience. Am I still bitter about getting made redundant? Yes. But is it a blessing in disguise? I think so. It's meaning that I can see a lot more freedom. I can see what it's like working for myself. Before this, I worked 20 years for the government, hadn't worked anywhere else really. I had a little job in a bakery, but that doesn't really count when you're 16 years old and you're sweeping up some floors, So, yeah, it's been a very, very enlightening experience. In that time, I just realised I also gained a qualification. I gained a certificate in business management. So, a lot has happened in a year's time. I'm still sad that Mum's gone, but at the same time, I've been able to deal with grief really, really well this time when it comes to Mum, because, I had the time to prepare. It wasn't like she died of cancer or anything like that. She did still die pretty suddenly, but because we'd had the scare earlier in the year, I'd had a chance to sort of make peace with the fact that, she's getting quite old, she's getting quite sick, and, unfortunately it was going to be sooner rather than later. But I got a good 6 months with her as well, so I really, really appreciate her sticking around for that. But I'm most appreciative that, she's in a better place now. She's with my dad, she's, no longer in pain, and she's happy. Coming to grips with that has been pretty eye-opening to me. I never thought I'd be at that sort of place when it comes to grief, and I've had a lot of grief in my life. I've lost a lot of people, unfortunately, so it's been one of those sorts of sobering but also pleasant times of sorrow where, I'm remembering the good times, I'm remembering all that sort of stuff, and I feel like a better person because of the way that I've had to deal with what I've had to deal with, and the way that I've been able to deal with it. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without seeking more knowledge and learning more about myself. And that's the main thing as well that I've done this year, is I have, worked a lot in the last sort of 12 months on myself. I've worked a lot with my anger, I've worked a lot with my, just basically my outlook in life. My mindset has changed completely for some of the things that I've done. And yeah, that's been really, really enlightening as well. So I do think it's definitely worth looking at. If I hadn't have seen a counsellor psychotherapist well before that, I don't think I would have been in this position. So that sort of brings me to where I'm going to talk about now is, if you're needing help, I know I've said it many, many times, but I do strongly, strongly, strongly encourage you to make that step. To, even if you don't want to go to a counsellor or a psychotherapist or a therapist or anything like that, call a friend, speak to a friend, because it's so important that you take some time to reflect on yourself and take some time to realize that, sometimes we go through hard things. And let's be real, we go through some absolute crap sometimes. But it's how you deal with that crap and how you come out the other side that will help you grow in the future. You don't always have to, like I used to play the victim quite a lot. I'm a victim because of this. I'm a victim because of this. I did this. This has happened to me because of this. The sad thing is, a lot of the things in life that happen are most times coincidences, unless I do something specifically to harm myself. There's not much you can talk about other than that, basically. So one thing, it's like, I'm not saying things don't happen for a reason. Of course they do. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, learn to roll with what is going through in your life. If you're having a hard time at life because of X, Y, and Z, try to think, not on the positive. Like, if you can think of the positive, that's good. But I know sometimes positive is really, really hard to get a grasp on, especially when you're dealing with a lot of the things that go on in life. That's just the way things are, unfortunately. But what you can do is you can start taking a step back and going, right, let me discuss this, let me reflect on this. What is going on in my life? What causes me stress? How do I break that stress? One of the things I started doing again is I started reading another book. It's a book that I had read before, but I never actually read it all the way through, and it's The Life-Changing Magic of Not Giving a Fuck by Sarah Knight. I've read her other books, they're amazing. This book is pretty amazing as well, and I do strongly suggest that if you are going through something and you don't want to see a counsellor, you don't want to talk to people, maybe you've just got like too much going on in your head at the time, pick up this book. Give it a read. She's funny. She does swear a lot, but at the same time, the humour that's in the book helps you understand what it is that she's trying to get through to you. She's trying to help you basically unfuck your brain. There is another book called Unfuck Your Brain, which is very similar, but it's just not in the same vein as the Sarah Knight book. But basically, it's a great way of... One of the things that she talks about is the not sorry method, which is basically like I'm not sorry for the opinion I have. I'm not sorry for the way that I feel. I feel better because I basically, I don't give a fuck. That's effectively what it is that she says. And the reason she says that is imagining the things that you do give, a fuck about. What are those? What are the specific ones that you actually care about? And if those are the things you care about, why would you care about things that aren't on that list? For example, don't care about other people's opinions because you don't need to care about other people's opinions, if that makes sense. So, if it's valid to you, yes. If you seek other people's opinions and you need that in your life, which most of us don't, let's be real, I really don't care anymore about how people think about me. If they, if you listen to this and you're like, you're spouting absolute nonsense, that's fine. What I believe is that you can have your opinion. You're entitled to your opinion, but your opinion has no basis on me. Not anymore. It did used to. I used to worry very, very much what people thought about me. I used to worry about all sorts. But the whole reason I started this podcast journey was because I stopped thinking, what if I don't say this? Because that was part of the thing. I would never open up about my mental health. I would never open up about how I want to help people with being an entrepreneur and, all that sort of stuff. I never would say anything. I would keep it all locked inside because I thought I had to. I thought, I can't talk about that stuff because that's the way I was raised. I realise now it's better for me to talk about that stuff, to get it off my chest, to let you listen. Because that's part of my process of getting things through my head. Now, I'm not saying that it will work for you. It may do, it may not do. I'm telling you what works for me. But remember, I also did 2 years of quite serious counselling with my psychotherapist, working on myself, working on mindfulness, working on all these things I needed to do in order to cope. And then I put them into place. And luckily, I have a partner that has helped me realize a lot more mentally what I can do. She values my opinion. She values me for me. But at the same time, she also is okay with, calling me on my shit when I talk shit. But at the same time, listening to me, hearing me. And that's not the same as listening to other people's beliefs or opinions. Because her opinion is one that I do give a fuck about. Hence the budget that I talked about before. Honestly, it is a game-changing book. It's up there with 5 Love Languages. Like, I know I've talked about the 5 Love Languages many times. this is another book that is up there. The reason I say it's up there is because even though I haven't finished it all the way, each time I read the bits that I get up to, I take more from it. And this time I will actually finish it, because unfortunately it's one of these books that is a physical book, not a audio book. And as I've talked about, I prefer audiobooks. That's how I consume information. So each time I read a physical book, I find it very, very hard to do so. But why talk about this? Well, it's Mental Health Week. It's important, people. If you don't talk about what's going on in your life with the people that you love, then at least talk about it with someone else. Even if you have to have... So one of the things I used to do, which, is going to sound a little crazy, because, growing up, part of the perception was when you talk to yourself, you're a little crazy. Well, I used to have conversations with myself, and it would be things like what we're talking about. I would talk about, this podcast is like a way of me talking with myself. I'm airing things out, and I'll respond as myself. Now, that does sound a little crazy, but when you're in that point in your life when you need to reflect and you need to think about the way you're doing, the way that things are changing in your life, or what you might need to change, just speaking it out into the air in a room by yourself, and then responding as either a positive or a negative, you start to hear what it is that you're trying to say. Now, the important thing is when you're doing that, you need to make sure that you can separate yourself from yourself. And I know that sounds a bit stupid, but the way that I mean it is, if I say something to myself like, you know what, Alex, you're getting pretty fat. And then I put another part with like, oh, well, I'm going to die soon. Because that's what I used to tell myself. I said, I was surprised I would live past 40. And now I actually feel like I want a life, because I thought that the way that my upbringing was, I was eating bad, I was not looking after myself, I didn't have anybody, like I didn't have a girl, I didn't have a man, not that I swing that way, but you know what I mean, like I didn't have a relationship, and I felt that all I was going to amount to in life was a guy that works, lives with his mother, and doesn't have a partner. And, my comfort was my food. Let's be real. That's why I ate all the bad things. That's why, I didn't want to work on myself. I would say I would, but I was deluding myself as well. And some people are like, oh, you can't say self-delusion. Well, no, I can, because that's exactly what it was. Like, I was being self-deluded. But I found someone that found value in me. I used to feel, happy. Like, people would say, oh, you're such a good boy because you look after your mother. Like, that's nice to hear, but that's not really something that I wanted to hear, if you know what I mean. Like, it's like to be known as the guy that looks after his sick mother, and that's all people knew me for, as the happy, jolly guy, the Santa, basically, and the guy that looks after his mum. Not the guy that's passionate, loves what he does, not the guy that, has a great entrepreneurial mind, not the guy that, not the guy that can bring value in other ways of the life. It was just those things. Or the famous, when asking a girl out and it's getting the, you're a nice guy, let's be friends. Now, ladies, if you're listening to that, do you know how much that hurts? It's not kind. It's a bit of a dig in the face, really, to be told that. Like, it's not easy. But at the same time, I have changed the way I am. I am more assertive. Not that I go looking for fights, but at the same time, I'm not going to back down from my opinion now, where I used to. I used to, yes ma'am, no ma'am, anything you want ma'am. And I've definitely changed that tune now. So I'm proud of myself for that as well. I feel that my opinion and my voice is heard, and that it actually has value, you know? So if I hadn't have taken those tools that I needed to and had support around me as well, like my mother, I'm not saying, you know, mum didn't support me as well, mentally as well, but she had her mental problems, and because of that, it was very, very hard to, you know, deal with what I needed to. But it made me, you know, like my experiences with my mother and her mental health meant that, you know, if I wanted to go pick up a career in mental health and deal with people on a day-to-day basis, I would have a very good natural understanding of how to do that. You know, not saying I wouldn't need training. Of course I'd still need training. But what I'm saying is I would probably pick it up intuitively because I saw what I saw, and I know how to act, and I know how to respond to the way that some people are. The problem with that was I was looking after other people. I was never looking after myself, not properly. And so the last sort of 5 years, I've been looking after myself a lot more. I'm starting to realize that I have value. I'm starting to realize that what I do matters. And honestly, once I started to do that properly, it has helped me so much more. So, yeah, I want to take the time to say thank you to all of the people in my life, my friends, my family, my partner, my previous psychotherapist, like even my ex-friends. Anybody that has helped me shape me to the person that I am now. Thank you. And I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. I am grateful to have you in my life or help inspire my life by you being a part of it at any point. Gratitude is so important. So thank you. Other than that, there's not much more I can say for this week. It's basically, if you need help, go get it. If you can't find help, talk to a friend. Email me. You know, you can always email me. I can't help very much, but if I can help in any way, I will try. Until next week, as always, I love you guys. Good luck. And happy Mental Health Week.